Welcome to the Hundredfold Journey. We help people step out of religious bondage and into true abundance. We invite you to embark on a journey, a spiritual journey called the Hundredfold. At a Hundredfold, we are a group of people developing new thoughts, habits, and beliefs to understand our true identity, to live our life purpose, and experience the abundant life just the way Jesus did. Our mission is to provide support, encouragement, and resources to help you on your journey. The life you are meant to live is closer than you think. The journey is the destination, and your journey starts now. All right, here we go. Good morning, Doug here from the Hundredfold Journey. Thanks again for joining us on this Grace Awakening Network program. We're here to come alongside of you because we're all on a journey together to know our true identity, to live your life purpose, and experience true abundance. Because a Hundredfold is about a group of people looking to find their true identity and understanding God's true identity. So thank you for joining us today. We are actually in a new series, a brand new series. Should be probably about 8 or 10 different sessions, and we're going to be talking about I am the dwelling place of God. And if you've been following me for a while, we just ended a series called the 7 I am statements of God, of Jesus. And now we're going to be talking about the dwelling place of God, and that is who I am. And our key verses for this series is 1 Corinthians 3:16. You are God's temple, and God's Spirit lives in you. And then John 17:22, it says, I have given them the glory you gave me, that they may be one as we are one. So we are the dwelling place of God. We have been given the glory, the same glory that Jesus had, we have, and we're God's temple. Now, what does the temple mean? And that's what we're going to be talking about. Because I am the dwelling place of God. This is the introduction. So we're going to be talking about what exactly it means for us to be the temple. The key word is temple. So we'll get into that right now. Here's the temple. So back in the Old Testament, while the children of Israel were walking through the desert for 40 years, and then even after that, where it was Solomon's temple. And in fact, this is more of a picture of Solomon's temple. But this was where called the Tabernacle of God. And there were 3 sections of the tabernacle. There's what was called the outer court, the inner court or the holy place, and then the Holy of Holies. So there were 3 different sections. And I'll be talking about each one of those sections in detail through this series. Now, what's interesting about the temple is that there are 7 pieces of furniture, 7 elements within the temple, and they correspond precisely with the 7 I am statements of Jesus. And those were, I am the resurrection and the life, which is found in the Holy of Holies. I am the light of the world. I am the door. I am the good shepherd. I am the bread. I am the true vine. I am the way, the truth, and the life. So all 7 of those 7 I am statements are found in the temple. This is what makes this temple so significant. And if you'll remember, when we did the 7 I am statements of Jesus, those 7 I am statements were us, right? Jesus said it, and we're also, as he is, so I am in this world. So those 7 I am statements are statements about us. Therefore, this temple is describing us. Now, how does that look like? How does that play out? What are each one of these articles in the temple? We'll describe that in a minute. Now, just to kind of backtrack a little bit more on what the temple was. So God revealed his desire for us through Jesus until he appeared. And until then, there were types and shadows that were used in the Old Testament. Hebrews 8 says, for if he were on earth, he would not be a priest, since there are priests who offer the gifts according to the law. And by the way, we're priests um, who serve the copy and shadow of the heavenly things, as Moses was divinely instructed when he was about to make the tabernacle. For he said, see that you make all things according to the pattern shown you on the mountain. So the story is that Moses, after coming out of Egypt, they're in the desert. Then Moses goes up onto the mountain and he's up there for 40 days. And God shows him this temple. And then God instructs Moses to create that same temple here on earth. And he says, see to it that you make all things according to the pattern shown you on the mountain. So that's what this is referring to. So Moses saw this and then replicated it here on earth. But what that was a shadow of heavenly things. It wasn't the actual, it was a shadow of the things that Moses saw. So what this means is that we are the dwelling place of God, because 1 Corinthians 3:16 says, do you not know that you are the temple of God and the Spirit of God dwells in you? 2 Corinthians 6, for we are the temple of the living God, just as God said, I will live in them and will walk among them, and I will be their God, and they will be my people. 1 Corinthians 2, for who has known the mind of the Lord that he may instruct him, but we have the mind of Christ. So not only are we the physical representation of God here on earth, but we also have the mind of Christ. We can have the thoughts of God because God's Spirit is within us. Philippians 2, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, who being in the form of God did not consider it robbery to be equal to God. So what this means is that we are equal to God, and we need to have that same mind that Christ had about himself. All right. So in the Old Testament, the covenant was between God and Moses. The articles of that covenant were inside the ark, and God would visit one time a year with blood on the mercy seat. We'll describe that a lot more detail later, but just know that in the Holy of Holies, where the Ark of the Covenant was, God would only appear one time a year, and it was only through blood that he would come there. The Ark and the mercy seat was a testimony of the covenant between God and Moses, right? Now, in the New Testament, let's fast forward to, call it 2,000 years ago, when Jesus was here. There was a new covenant that was set between God and God, right? It wasn't between God and man, it was between God and himself. And in this case, Jesus was the arbitrator of that covenant. Jesus stated, this is my body, this is my blood, which is the new covenant. He actually declared it was the new covenant. Jesus is the new ark in which God dwelled, right? So we would all agree that Jesus was 100% God, 100% man. They were one. There was no separation. And what I'm telling you is that you are also 100% God and 100% man. There is no distinction. There is no difference. We are everything that he is. We are nothing that he's not. Okay? So we are that dwelling place. We're not the God that created us. I'm not saying you are the God that created you, but you're, as Tommy Miller would say, you're a chip off the old block. If you have a block of granite and you take a chip off of that block and you put it inside of you, that granite, you are a piece of that granite. So I'm suggesting that you're that piece. You are God, but you're not from the original, right? I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense, Linda?
Yes, it does. It's the same analogy of that you're still if you were a drop of the
Yes.
ocean, you're still a part of that ocean. You're a part of the whole.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not
Exactly.
separate from it. You are, even if you were a drop outside of the ocean, you're still a part of the ocean.
Everything that's contained in the ocean
Yes.
is contained in that drop.
Drop.
Yeah,
Correct.
perfect, Linda. That's thank you for reminded me of that. So God has set us free from the old covenant and set us free from the law of sin and death. So I am now the temple of God, the ark where God resides, right? I am the visual representation of God here on earth. The funny thing is, if you ask somebody, hey, have you seen God today? Where's God? Have you heard from him? Have you seen him? Have you touched him? Have you smelled him? Right? Your five physical senses. The answer to all of that would be no. I mean, I haven't seen God. Yeah, he might, we might represent him as the stars, the moon, or that cloud shape, or, oh, I see, he's in my taco, right? It's this angel in my taco. But the truth is, we see him everywhere. 7 billion people on the planet are all a chip off the old block. They're all that drop of water, that seed that's within inside of us. So I can tell you that everybody that you see is God. It's just in a different form. God is in Doug. God is in Linda. God is in, you can name 7 billion people. Now, do people believe that? Do they understand it? Um, no, the majority of them don't. But it doesn't change the fact that that's what God has done. In Acts chapter 2, it says his spirit has been poured out on all flesh, right? There's no distinction. In Romans chapter 5, it says that that in Adam all died, and in Christ all are alive. We were buried with him, we were resurrected with him, and now we're seated in heavenly places. So when you ask the question, have you seen God today? You could actually say, yes, I have. Now, God, we want to be coming from a place of love and not of condemnation or judgment, but people need to be awakened to this truth. And it's pretty amazing, because when I came to the awakening of it, it changed my life completely. It was like, what? You mean God is already in me and I'm his dwelling place? And the answer is yes. We're the visual representation of God here on earth. I am basically heaven on earth. So when you ask the question, where is God? A lot of people say, well, yeah, he's up there somewhere. He's up in heaven, right? And he's ruling and reigning. And that's where heaven is. God is where heaven is, or heaven is where God is. But if you take that same definition, okay, if heaven is where God is, then that means, since I'm the dwelling place and since he is in me, I am heaven on earth. I don't have to go somewhere to be with God. He's already here. Pretty amazing when you think about that. So again, I'm the dwelling place of God.
Yeah, most
Now,
people think that he is outside of them, but he's
yes,
living and moving and having his being in us. And so he's just experiencing life through us. And as we become aware of that, we awaken and align with him, and we transform and become higher versions of ourselves.
yes. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So this is how it looks to have heaven on earth. Is if you look at your body, there's 3 sections of your body: body, soul, and spirit. And each one of these sections represents the temple. And we're again going to be talking about each one of these uh, pieces of furniture, you could say, that are within us, right? And these are also forms of the 7 I am statements. All right. So whenever you think about the temple and being the temple of God, we can look at it through this lens, right? Body, soul, and spirit. So the question is, do you see yourself this way? And Linda, for you, do you see yourself as being the temple of God, the dwelling place of God?
Yes, I'm awakening and becoming more aware of who I really am.
Now, do you believe that you're the dwelling place all the time? Some of the time?
Well, there's times I think that, I think that I'm my own being, but no, I am really learning to know that he is really dwelling in me.
Can you give me an example of when it's not true that you're not the dwelling place of God?
Um, Maybe when I'm thinking opposite of what he says I am, and that would be the love, joy, peace, and happiness. That's not, when you're opposite of that, and maybe you don't think you're worthy, then I don't think that would be God is dwelling in you. It's another voice that's dwelling in you.
So, is there ever a time where God is not dwelling in you?
Oh, no, he's always there. But
There we
I'm
go.
just not
Yes,
recognizing him or acknowledging him.
exactly. Exactly. So, thanks for clarifying that, because even when we do stupid things, even when we have negative thoughts, even when life becomes difficult and we think, where is God? He's there. He never leaves us, never forsakes us. We're always the dwelling place of God, even when we feel separate. He's not going anywhere. So, what we have to do is when those thoughts come in, we have to remind ourselves, and sometimes we forget. A lot of the times we forget um, that we are that dwelling place. So there is no example where he is not in you. It's the voice that you're listening to. And Linda, you pointed that out perfectly, is we still have those old thoughts, the stinky thinking that says that I'm not good enough, and I've done all these things and God has deserted me and all of that. So we have to capture those thoughts and replace them with different thoughts of, no, I am the dwelling place. He's not going anywhere. Um, everything that he is and nothing that he's not. That's who I am. I'm a chip off the old block. And when we realize that, then it changes our thoughts. And then we can rest in knowing that there's nothing we need to do. We're just be who we already are. All right. So let's walk through the temple, walking east to west, the bottom to the top. We'll stop at each of the temple furnitures, which represent the I am statements of Jesus and of you, right? So this is a representation of who you already are. All right. So let's start on the outside of the camp, which is called the wilderness. So outside that little fence is where the seed was sent out. And if you remember a couple of episodes ago, we talked about the seed and the sower. And the seed goes out and it's spread, some by the road, some by the rocks, some by the thorns, but they're unfruitful, they're barren. And I think this is a perfect example, right? We're in the desert, right? The desert is barren and it is difficult for that seed to grow. But that seed is in everyone, but they're not choosing to go into the temple. And what I mean by into the temple is inside of them, because we're the temple, right? We don't have to go outside to find the temple, to find God. The temple is already within us. And that seed, then, when we go inside the temple and we realize who we are, that seed can then grow, some 30, some 60, some 100-fold. Again, that's what a hundredfold is all about, is seeing what it truly means to have a hundredfold return. All right. So then you're on the outside of the gate because that's where you think you are, right? It's not where you actually are. It's where you think you are. You're outside the gate, and there's things that you have to do. But what's interesting is there's a gate entrance there. And when you come into the gate, there's actually this it's not a door. The door is actually in the next section. I think it's the gate opening. John 10:1 says, most assuredly I say to you, who does not, oh, there it is, the sheepfold by the door, but climbs up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber. And if you remember when we did the series, and I keep referring back to old series, is being the good shepherd is we're being the good shepherd of our thoughts. When we think we're outside the gate and there's something we need to do to get inside the gate, that's not managing our thoughts. That is being a thief and a robber, thinking there's something that you can do to get over the gate by your own works. And what Jesus has shown us is that there's nothing we need to do. We're already there. And we just rest in knowing that we are already inside the temple, right? So be that good shepherd of your thoughts and don't think you have to do in order to be who you already are. So that's the gate entrance. So then you walk into that courtyard, and the very first thing you see is the brazen altar of sacrifice. John 1:29 says, the next day, John the Baptist saw Jesus coming towards him, and says, behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. So what this represents is you are the man and the sheep are your negative thoughts. Now, in the Old Testament, right, they would take those sheep and they would kill it and put it on the altar of sacrifice, the brazen altar. And what that would do is take away the sin, your false identity of who you thought you were. It would take the lamb, the physical representation of our thoughts, and it would say, I'm not thinking this anymore. I now know who my true identity is. So you sacrifice those sheep, which are the negative thoughts, and you sacrifice it. You say, I'm not going to think those thoughts anymore. And the beauty about this illustration is that when you burn those sheep, right, they're gone. They are completely gone. What we tend to do is we bring them up over and over and over again, right? But we have to continually put those sheep on the altar of sacrifice, the brazen altar, so that those thoughts of I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, I am not the dwelling place of God, I got to do things in order to be pleasing to God, all of those need to be sacrificed on this altar. And what's cool is this is the very first thing that you see when you walk into the temple is this altar of sacrifice. So we got to let go of our stinky thinking of who we thought we were, that we were outside the camp, right? But we've actually always been inside the camp. And now we need to sacrifice those sheep, those lambs of stinky thinking. Linda, are you tracking? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just had a thought about how Jesus is the good shepherd and how he would protect the flock. And so it's kind of ironic that, how sheep go astray, but he's there to guide you with your thoughts,
Yes.
feelings, and emotions. He protects you if you stay in the flock, or, it's like if you're in the mind of Christ, you won't wander off.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, exactly. And he is the good shepherd, just like we are the good shepherd, and we manage our flock, right? And he, Jesus Christ, he reminds us of our true identity. That's who we truly are. And when we align ourselves, we keep having to come back. No, I'm not good enough. And, bada, bada, bum. When we remind ourselves, then we keep coming back to that center.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm running out of time. So I'm going to stop here at the brazen altar. And there are 6 more pieces of furniture that we have to go through. So we're going to have to continue this next time on this introduction of the temple of God. So I'm gonna fast forward. So I got a lot of stuff here. So we're going to continue in the dwelling place of God, but these are the pieces of furniture that we're going to be covering: the bronze altar, bronze laver, table of showbread, golden lampstand, altar of incense, Ark of the Covenant, and the mercy seat. But next week, we need to continue on the introduction because there's still a lot more that I need to introduce to you. So thanks for joining us. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and I've got an extensive YouTube channel. So please go there to watch these videos that I've referenced before. Those are all on YouTube or GAN TV. You can go there and find those and watch those, especially the 7 I am statements, the seed and the sower. It's all up there. And this is the 100-fold journey. You can reach out to me on the website through the QR code, and then you can email me at the100foldjourney@gmail.com. That's it for this morning. Linda, thank you for joining, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.